My name is Michael Traugott. I'm a political scientist. My home at the university is in the Center for Political Studies at ISR. I study campaigns and elections. The founders weren't exactly thrilled about popular participation in politics, and so they had an indirect method for the selection of the president that involved electors from each state who actually would cast their votes for president in December. This article was modified by the 12th Amendment to the Constitution, which provided for popular selection of the electors, and in one form or another, that's the process that we follow now. Well, we have a highly disaggregated electoral system in the United States, with the state parties having a great deal of influence. So the primaries and caucuses are a way to select delegates to a national convention, which actually has the responsibility for nominating the president. And the president selects just before the convention or prior to the convention someone to be the vice presidential candidate. And so at the convention, there's an adoption of a platform and then the selection of the slate. The system that we have today is relatively new in our history if you think about the last 50 years or so, because prior to 1972, the nominating convention took place under a situation in which party leaders were responsible for nominating the candidates. But in Chicago in 1968, during the Vietnam War resistance movement, there were big demonstrations in Chicago. The demonstrators were subdued by the Chicago police. This was the first real televised nominating convention. And the Democrats were very concerned about the image that was portrayed to the public. And this series of events gave rise to this popular term, smoke-filled rooms. And so to get around this notion of smoke-filled rooms, the Democrats first appointed a commission, the McGovern-Fraser Commission, to change the rules. These rules went into effect for the 72 nomination. George McGovern, who knew all about the rules, was the first person to get nominated under the new rules. The Republicans soon adopted similar rules, and by 1976, both parties were using a system of primaries and caucuses to select what are called pledged delegates, people who had to vote for the candidate who won in their state on at least the first ballot. Well, it's important, first of all, to remember that these rules are developed at the state level, and they vary widely from state to state. First of all, in terms of whether there's a primary or caucus for delegate selection, about whether it's open or closed, who gets to participate. Sometimes the selection of the delegates is direct, but sometimes it's indirect. What people are really voting for are delegates to a county or state convention where the actual delegates to the nominating convention are selected. And the other thing to remember is that the turnout, the participation in these events is very low. So it's political activists who have the greatest role or the most say in who the nominees turn out to be.